guys, welcome back to Mix Masala with TG. In this special podcast episode, we have one of our contemporary artists who will be sharing his. Yeah, man. So we'll get to it. So give a small introduction about yourself, man. Like about your background, where you're from.
Yeah. So I am Julius Das from Odisha. So
Okay.
I did my fine art study bachelor in Bhubaneswar, PK College of Art and Craft, and I studied my master from Shivnadar University.
Oh, from there.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then so and then after pandemic happened, I went back to hometown, and then I was in very kind of situation where I am able to work, but I don't know what I am doing.
Huh.
And then I applied here in Space Studio, and I got into, and then started working and tried to.
So you are not actually from Baroda, like
No,
you
no,
are-
no. I'm not from Baroda.
So you had just come here to do the
Further residency.
for the residency only.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And so tell us a bit from your childhood things, events. Like how it has led to you making choices.
Yeah. So I had a very distance connection with my family from
Alright.
earlier because I choose something which is not meant to be chosen. So that's why quite oftenly I stay alone, and then I try to understand the pattern and then conditioning of different places, how people think, and how. So especially my area of interest is based on how social constructionism has happened, and how knowledge production being produced in a same manner or maybe various manner, but it's like it's a knowledge production which we are constantly facing, and my point is I try to understand that pattern and conditioning behind the knowledge production system,
Okay.
and how each and every apparatus work in a different module which
Okay.
is modified from the larger ground or larger apparatus. Like if
Okay.
I say Baroda as a city and then Space Studio inside that city. So if I say city as a site, and then I architecturally define artist here in Space Studio, so it has different module, different law enforcement. And then if I talk about Baroda as a site, and then it has a law enforcement and different conditioning of socialite uh, pattern. So I try to understand those
So
enforcement.
when did sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but uh, so there are always like some situation or something that
Mhm.
ignites these sort of ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, your way of thinking. Sometimes we are in a very different situation, and then suddenly something happens
Yeah.
which is not controlled by us, or
Yeah.
we were not expecting that to happen, but
Yeah.
it happened, and then the way we start looking at the same thing
Yeah.
then changes.
Yeah.
So when did it actually start? Like when did you actually start thinking, okay, this is sort of the things that I am actually or catching your attention basically,
Um, it is not about
like
catching like
huh.
so there is always an option to choose, and there is something we need to respond.
Sure,
So there
sure.
is not like this is good, this is content, we need to work on that. So it is like I always look towards the current situation, which is very unpredictability and very chaos. So I think that we need to address, because that is somehow mostly ignorant, and because of I'm constantly facing rejection in various ways, so like through my sexuality, through the kind of work I choose to do, or my career or anything. So there is a constant rejection. So I think that's also a form of resistance to me, because so when we constantly face the rejection, then
Yeah.
it's became your like
Yeah, yeah.
that's your resistance. So that's how I try to understand and respond in a very testimonies ways, because I
Okay.
produce like the collages
Mhm.
and then the posters. I use old magazines from waste management or any individuals, those who are like um, selling old magazines and books. So it's a kind of archive in a sense, and I try to use that material respond to current situation through myself, through various architectural spaces and different apparatus and enforcement to it, how it's work and why that rejection constantly coming up on me.
Mhm.
So what is the reason behind that? So it's a kind of inquiry, and also it has that strategy to understand,
Would
so
you say, like, it's maybe because you are in India, let's say we are not in the West,
yeah.
and therefore, much of the rejection or the way of functioning in the society and everything is also deeply rooted,
Yeah.
It's like because of the how we are all brought up, even though the diversity factor
Yeah.
is there, but still, like, at the grassroots level, like like the Indians themselves, we Indians in ourselves are like also functioning in a very like a, I mean, there are places, most of it in like urban areas, like if you take an example of Himachal,
Yeah.
then in Himachal the acceptance for, like people with different sexuality,
Mm.
this and like बहुत open होता है, like it's very open there. Even in my home also, I had a lot of friends, my mom had a lot of friends who were, like gay or yeah,
From
like
LGBTQ
yeah, and
community. Yeah.
we were brought up in that kind of environment. So for us it was never like a, you know we were always interacting with this sort of community people and with a lot of artist communities. So we always considered them as part, like, whoa, that question of, like they are different and this is not possible, it was not there. But then once I traveled out from Himachal, and my first time, like in 1 year I was spending in Mumbai, and then I came here, then I got to know, like, apart from like just specific locations now, people don't like
So
yeah,
that's what
yeah,
I'm talking about. Not that the conditioning, how
huh,
that rejection
exactly,
forms. So in that mindset, we need to understand.
yeah,
We need to question. So my
yeah,
work is, um, I try to produce more questions and in a place where I am in, because that rejection need to be questions. In certain way, not the rejection, but the time we are living, the systematic way we are living, the knowledge production system we are part or
mm-hmm.
have been part of
Mm-hmm.
this. So that need to be questioned. So my
Okay.
point is, I try to produce more question to the system which is behind all knowledge production or
So
systematic
do you
apparatus.
think about like how you are going to ask the questions as well, like, or
It is depends,
does it come out
yeah.
naturally, like?
I ask question in a very testimonial way. So
Okay.
the kind of text or word I use, it's multi-layered, but it has a clue to,
Ha ha ha.
you can understand, or maybe you can get through it through your positioning and your understanding of see the things, or maybe in a response to the current
Like I saw
turmoils.
some of in some of your works, there are some words that are repetitive, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and क्या था वो, whole
Whole.
whole is there, and like some more words are there which are like found in all,
Constantly.
yeah, constantly there. So
Even the stars are like in a various
ha.
form. So I'm talking about that reproduction of a production which is mass producedly
Mm-hmm.
we are indulged with. So we constantly see those things. So it's like we are combining all those things. We try to understand the universality. So I'm talking about that universality is a myth, because if we think in a larger way, so then the smaller pocket has different module and
Ha.
modified structure. So we need to understand the part which is a which is,
Part of the
which
greater.
has a larger ground behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So my point is that to understand that minute breeze or the line behind it. Yeah, like that.
All right.
And then of course the kind of you know uh,
So you're pretty also like in terms of your color palettes.
yeah,
Like my personal view,
yeah, yeah,
like because I've not met you before. I'm seeing you also for the first
yeah,
time. I'm seeing you, and because like I do street art and all that, so like the color combinations that you have is very familiar with me. Like
yeah,
I can and pop culture, and because we also are always attached with this culture, like from that side I got really intrigued, like huh. And when it's in a enclosed room,
yeah,
this vibrant colors also play a very different
yeah.
sort of
Narratives and
yeah,
visual
yeah,
forms. Yeah,
it's very different when you are having it outside, let's say in a graffiti format, the same color palette, but then like when you have it in like
inside
very
a space.
specific and it has a very specific goal also, then it becomes very different. The so like, how so you choose the colors, I mean like
Yeah, because we live in a hyper visual culture.
huh.
So it's lot of informations, lot of things, lot of popping of ads and everything. So I'm also talking about that mass culture we are constantly facing, because this is the time and this is the contemporary way to see the things, and then choosing color is something not just for aesthetic choice. It has that power, because I always mention that my drawings and posters is based on act and gesture, which is also because if I talk about apparatus and law enforcement, we are the regulator of
Yeah.
the law, because that meant to be, so law meant to be upon something or someone. So that's how our each and every act defined by the law, if it's lawful or it's unlawful. Then when I do graffiti on like graph paper inside an institution, so how we define that act is a lawful or unlawful, because graph paper is meant to be
Yeah.
very precise and architectural drawing, and then I use spray can for the freehand drawing and speeches or anything like that. So it's a form of that. So what the kind of resistance I'm talking about, so it's a part of act and gesture which is defined by law, and I try to understand that notion in a praxis basis. So like that.
Interesting. And how was your time in Shivnadar?
It was good. We explored lot more things and critical thinking and all sort of. So if I say about Tushar Jo, he was my mentor there.
All right.
So, so when you meet those kind of people, it's try to understand. I mean, you analyze yourself how things should be little more sensible, and you need that urge to respond the current turmoils and everything. And so that has definitely there, because we are there. We did those kind of things in SNU, and after, so yeah, it helps to understand. And also I'm talking about that in different architectural setting which has that
So you
not
come back. So
sorry.
you come back to this architectural aspect, like. So, is it something that you want to like have going hand in hand with your methodology, or like how does this architectural space idea comes into play, like with your work?
Because I'm talking about bodies, so
Okay.
bodies are defined by architectural spaces.
Okay.
If you are in like here, because it is a designated workspace or a set of institution which is meant to be for the artist,
Yeah.
or those bodies coming to here, it is somehow related to that field. If you go to the hospital, so do you understand how
Yeah.
architecturally body is played? So I try to understand that apparatus enforcement and how each has their modified structure inside. So then I'm talking about myself, and then I'm talking about sexuality and body and how it's reacting different apparatus. So and then I have to be very consciously thinking about those things, and also as a citizen, because I have also
Yeah.
document of being a democratic nation citizen. So how I can, I mean, how I try to understand those things in a larger ground, which is very, but in a, those kind of thing I'm constantly thinking about. So it need to be addressed somehow in my practice. Also, it's coming up in multi-layered. If you see like how I displayed, so it's like all above on the eye level, and it's like uh, you know salon display, and then those kind of panopsis, and then half circular format, and then so, and it's chaos, and the color and the brightness, and when you try to understand the font, which is repetitive,
Yeah.
it's constantly. So I'm talking about the reproduction, and then that mass information which is constantly building up on. And so those I am interested to understand that through my act and gesture in the form of drawing, posters, and GIF files, also whatsoever.
Okay. Nice, man. Like, yeah, I think. I mean, if you were to give some tips for the listeners too, like how can they go about it, and like maybe some challenges that you have faced in,
Yeah.
like, trying to convey what you want to convey, your thoughts, and then like, somewhere you've maybe bumped into some hindrance, and then you had some trouble, in like identifying how you have to now convey this idea or concept, or maybe someone took it in a different way, the way you are saying. So any incidents like this, challenges that you had come
Of
about?
course, there are challenges, but I would rather say those challenges are somehow need to be addressed in different ways, because every person has their own um, what own set of challenges, own set of problems, and different rejection and different mindset, because the kind of situation we've been through in separate, like in different part of this. So it is totally upon the person how
Sure.
they react, and so we always have our own, way to resist thing. So that's also include our privileges, our common understanding, and then it's largely connected to that social setup where we are come from. Like you said, in Himachalis there is different. There is no sort of things is rejected, or no
Yeah.
nothing happened. But here, so do you understand? So it's all about that, and everyone their own choices and way to resist things and reject. So my idea is to like disseminate those rejections in different ways. So I would like to say that. So it's a
And I think
through testimonies, like I use that
and I
word
think
often.
it's pretty clear and
Yeah.
direct in your works, body of
Yeah.
artwork, where people come and see and they actually know what you're actually talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
So there are so many different works in the
Yeah.
exhibition, and everybody has a different way of communicating for sure.
Yeah.
But then like yours is pretty like straightforward, and
Yeah.
it's direct, and I really like the idea of how you have utilized the stars.
Yeah.
Usually it's that sort of stars are like used for, I think, the Americans, like
That's
army
why I'm talking about
people, and
mass
like
culture, and
yeah. And then like now when you are speaking about all this, you can somehow, like, even though I may not have like understood your background, but like
yeah.
just those small elements there were also like so direct that you
Yeah.
can actually make some connection
Yeah. Yeah.
and have some understanding of like what's actually happening there,
Yeah.
what's cooking there. So yeah, man. Thanks, man. Like I
And I
think.
would lastly say a word which is I use in my post. It's like universality is a
Mhm.
myth. So I would like to end off this conversation here. So
All
it's
right.
a yeah.
Universality is myth. Is a myth.
Universality is a myth.
All right. Okay. Chill. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And yeah, man. I think this is a good session.